Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino. A meal isn't just about what's on your plate. It's about what you bring to the table. San Pellegrino believes the table is where the best of life happens. That's what makes gathering around it so rich and rewarding. And with their unique sparkling natural mineral water, San Pellegrino brings its best so you can bring yours.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are, only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
All right, Duke fans, welcome to episode 730 of the Duke Basketball Roundup, the DBR podcast. Jason Evans here with you. It's about 4 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. I'm joined by Donald Wine. Donald, you had an interesting weekend, didn't you?
Well, I had a good weekend, but I had it even better yesterday. I guess that was a Monday. I don't know what day it is today, but Monday. First of all, hi, Jason. Good to see you. Hope you had a great weekend. But Monday, I was able to take a tour of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. Want to shout out real quickly, William and John Parks. They're listeners of the show, and they're with the Fife and Drum Corps at Fort Myer, and they were able to give me a nice behind-the-scenes look at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the guards that guard them, the tomb 24/7. Got to meet a couple of them, and one of them was able to give us a tour of kind of the history of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, some of the nice, interesting insights behind how they operate as the guarders of the plaza that keeps the tomb. And it was just a cool, fascinating way to start off the week. I just really, these are some of the unique things that I get to do living here in DC. And so I was very happy that they offered this, and very grateful that they offered it, and was able to take advantage of it. And so if you get to DC, going to Arlington National Cemetery, visiting some of the grave sites, but especially the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is a must-do. But to get this particular perspective from, again, the soldiers that literally put their lives on the line and sacrifice their time, their efforts to make sure that tomb forever remains guarded is incredible. So it was very cool. And William and John, thank you so much for that particular, for that tour, and just, again, getting to know you guys, which I think is cool. Jason, they said they'll be at the game in DC. So you'll get to meet them, hopefully, if you come up for that.
Dude, I haven't decided what games I'm going to. Duke plays all over the place this coming year. I'm pretty sure I'm going to try and go up to
for everyone.
Yeah. I'm going to go up to Charlotte I think I'm going to go up to Charlotte for the game against Texas, which, by the way, just been announced. They're calling it the Dickie V Invitational. ESPN, functionally naming a high-profile game to kick off the season for Dickie V, which I think is a wonderful, wonderful thing. ESPN also announced they've extended Dickie V's contract for a few more years. I think he'll be in like his 49th. When it's all done, he'll be in like his 49th year.
Be very close to 50. Yeah. And I think Chris Berman is the only guy who has been at ESPN since it started back in 1979. He has a contract extension to take him to his 50th year. And I think they're going to do something similar for Dick Vitale, provided he, remains healthy and wants to continue doing it.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. And I know that Duke is quite excited to be a part of the inaugural Dickie V Invitational. And the implication is that this is a game that will go on for many, many years, whether Dick Vitale is calling it or not. And we hope Duke gets to take part in it many, many times. Look, I know he annoys some people. I know there are people who find his shtick a little over the top and tired at this point. And I know there are a lot of people out there who call him Dookie V for how much he loves the Blue Devils. I saw more than a few jokes online of people being like, "Oh, the Dickie V's calling a Duke game for the Dickie V Invitational. What a shock!" But
Hey, and I believe his granddaughter or grandson just graduated from Duke. So he
yeah,
has
yeah, that's his
legit ties
granddaughter.
to the
I could be wrong, but
university. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he has legit ties to the university. And so, and again, I've always appreciated him. He's also a Detroit guy. He coached the Pistons back in the day. He coached University of Detroit back in the day. So, he's forever tight with me. He's a cool cat. But I think this is cool. Again, I think the most important thing is his legacy that he wants to live is the, support and philanthropic efforts that he's done for the V Foundation. And that's what this particular invitational is going to help highlight, which I think is great.
yeah, exactly. But in any event, back to your question, I'm going to try and get to that game. I haven't figured out the other games. I'm going to try and get to. We'll see. The schedule still has yet to be unveiled, at least in its totality. Donald, this is going to be an episode. We've already ventured into a couple little topics. We're going to venture into a whole bunch of little topics. Stuff that is of minor importance and some stuff that's of big importance to Duke basketball, and to Duke in general. I'm going to start with this. Coach Will Stevens, who's been the strength and conditioning coach. I forget his exact title. Is that his exact title? He's got some.
It's some director of something. I think his title has changed throughout the years, but his importance has remained super high.
Right. Duke has announced that Coach Will is retiring. We have brought him up on this podcast many times, typically in the off season when we're saying, oh, these guys need to get bigger. They need to get stronger. They need to, build into their bodies. That was Coach Will's job, and he is one of the all-time greats at doing it. Unfortunately, he has announced his retirement after a couple decades at Duke, doing it since the 1990s or something like that. It's so sad to see him go, but I'm thrilled for him that he's going to get to enjoy his retirement now. And this is a guy who's had a profound impact on Duke basketball. I would argue that of all the names that the casual fan does not know, the people out there they're probably people who are listening to this podcast who are not familiar with Will Stevens, with the name Coach Will. Of all the names out there that people are not intimately familiar with, he probably impacted the program more than anyone else.
First of all, I slightly disagree with you in the sense that I think at this point, most Duke fans know Coach Will's name. Like Coach Will,
he's so good.
Coach
He's
Will's,
too famous.
he's so good, right? Like in I think in recent years, right, with everything that Duke has done to remain at the forefront of men's basketball, they have put him kind of center focus as saying he is one of the reasons why our players are always ready for prime time, and they're always ready for the lights, and they're always strong enough to withstand all the pressures of playing with DUKE across their chest. And I think he took that as a personal challenge, right? For the entire time he was there, he wanted to make sure that every team left stronger, left bigger, and left, again, was able to apply and do everything, not just in the gym, not just in the weight room, but in life in general. Like he's been one of those just day one, just goats. Like when you hear the word goat thrown around, Coach Will's got to be thrown into that. He's that good. And so, like you, we are very sad to see him go, but he has earned the ability to step back and not have to be in the gym every day at 4 a.m. or whatever it was he was getting up to make sure that everything was ready for 12 to 15 student athletes to come in and get 1% better every single day. He has earned his retirement, and hopefully has a nice front seat still at basketball games from here on out. But we will miss seeing Coach Will on a daily basis around this team, but his impact will never be forgotten.
Yeah, so on his staff bio page, and as Duke said goodbye to him, they noted these numbers. I just want you all to ruminate on this for a moment. During his time with Duke basketball, Coach Will Stevens coached 55 NBA players, 21 WNBA players, because he was the head trainer, so to speak, for Duke women's basketball team for about 20 years. He was longer with the men. He gave up the women in 2016, I believe was the year. But anyway, 55 NBA players, 21 WNBA players, 39 NBA first round draft picks, 26 lottery picks, and 11 WNBA first round draft picks. I mean, that's his Rolodex is full of people who made a very, very nice living playing professional basketball.
They have to, the belt that they give out to the most improved player in the weight room in the summer, like notably Jalen Blake's won it like I think all 3 years he was here at Duke. They got to rename that. They got to put his name or his face or something on there. Make it where it spins or something so that they never forget that Coach Will again instilled that effort that it was maximal, that was paramount to this program's success, and like you said, that of the women. But I don't know how you do it. You got to name the weight room after him. You got to do something. But he has definitely earned it, and his accolades speak for herself.
All right, next topic for us as we venture around to a whole bunch of different stuff does not connect to basketball. It is baseball. The Duke Blue Devils had just an incredibly exciting, but ultimately so frustrating and just gut-wrenching loss, 5-4 to Murray State, to the Racers. And as a result, Duke once again comes up one game short of making it to the College World Series in Omaha. They making it out of the Super Regional. Duke took game one of the series. It was at Duke. I think all of us thought this is happening. We had the advantage of playing a team that was a little bit lesser regarded, but baseball is really hard. It's just, anything can happen. And Duke falls in game three of the 3-game series. And as a result, will not be going to Omaha. And then we had the double whammy earlier today. Coach Pollard, who's headed up the Duke program for a while now and has taken it to heights that, Duke has not seen in baseball in like 60 years. That's how good Coach Pollard has been. He's gotten Duke on the cusp of Omaha. I want to say this is the seventh time.
I think it was 6 out of the last 8 years he had been in a super regional. He had been in a regional before. It's just incredible, the run that they did.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's been announced that he is leaving Duke. He's going to take the head job at Virginia. He's taking a couple of his top assistant coaches, his hitting coaches, pitching coach. He's taking them with him. It means that Duke baseball is going to have a chore rebuilding. That said, Nina King, absolute 100% faith. Every hire she has had, every prominent hire that she has made as athletic director at Duke has been a home run so far. So I'm really excited for that. But Donald, just reflections on a baseball season that, man, it was we were just right there, weren't we?
We were right there, as you mentioned. The past few years, we've been right there, and I know a lot of fans are probably thinking, how do we take that last step into Omaha for the first time? I think it would have been since 1961. I mean, congrats to Murray State. It is their first time ever at the College World Series. So, that's big up on them for getting past Ole Miss, I want to say, and also Duke in the Super Regional to get there. But I think in the case of Chris Pollard too, you have to remember, Jason, when I was in school, our team was in the dumps.
Oh,
we had
awful.
a steroid scandal, and we were the worst team in baseball. So like people had the joke that steroids couldn't even help Duke baseball be good. And Chris Pollard came in 2012, I want to say, and has not just rebuilt the program. And I've had a couple of friends whose sons played on the team, but also like kickstarted the reinvestment into the program. They played games at Durham Bulls Athletic Park to kind of up the profile of the team, but then also he helped get a full complete renovation of Jack Combs Field. And you saw, I mean, that was the first time that
it was rowdy, man. They were saying he wants it to be like Cameron for baseball. It looked a little bit like it.
It was the first time they had hosted a super regional. They had to bring in extra bleachers. Shout out my friend Megan. She was down there at the game. She was able to make it there. But it was a packed crowd, and that's what he wanted to have. And the fact that they did all these renovations to make it where people want to watch baseball and they want to do it at a stadium that again has those friendly confines and you're able to come and make an effect on the game. This is just yet another building block. Now, the hope is that Chris Pollard departing for Virginia doesn't impede that progress. But I think he created a ton while he was here. He brought baseball back to the point. And Jason, when you think about college athletics, most people say that there are 5 major sports, right? There's the 2 main revenue sports and football and men's basketball. You have women's basketball, baseball, and softball. We are doing great in all 5 of those sports right now.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to Nina King, as you mentioned. It's a testament to a lot of people putting the investments in. And it's a testament to these coaches really valuing getting great players, getting great talent, bringing them in and making them buy into this thing. We had 2 ACC championships. I believe it's the first 2 that Duke has ever had in 2021 and 2024. And now we're a team that people think about when you think about baseball. So sad to see him go. Now we have to play against them next year and years coming. But I hope baseball lands another coach that can come in and pick up right where Chris Power left off.
Yeah, it's a pity to lose him, and to lose him to a conference rival makes it all the more difficult. And you have to kind of wonder if maybe Virginia made some promises in terms of NIL budgets and things like that that lured him away. But speaking of that is going to be our next topic, Donald. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, the House settlement, what it means for Duke, what it means for all of college sports. This is a game-changing moment in all of college athletics, and we're going to try and break it down at least a little bit for you on the other side. All right, summer is here. More sun, more light, more time to do all the things that make summer so special. And the number one thing that you don't want to be doing all summer, spending hours cooking inside. That is where Factor comes in.
That's right, Jason. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. With 45 weekly menu options, you could pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. It's easy to savor more this summer. Factor meals pack in the flavor with none of the fuss, so you can get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors.
Man, that sounds really good. Get started, folks, at factormeals.com/DukeBB50 off. Use the code DukeBB50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That code again, DukeBB50 off at factormeals.com/DukeBB50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, factormeals.com/DukeBB50 off.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-electric Prologue SUV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the generous passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
We're back from the break on the latest episode of the DBR podcast. Jason and Donald with you. It was a thunderbolt, a lightning bolt through the world of college athletics when the House settlement was finally approved over the weekend. This is, of course, a lawsuit that's been going on for a while now from a whole huge class of former college athletes. And The crux of the settlement is this: there is going to be a large multi-billion-dollar payment made to college athletes who played between 2016 and today to compensate them. Well, sorry, not today, 2016 and I guess 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say 2021.
To compensate them for the money they did not get because they did not have access to their name, image, and to NIL dollars. And we're going to see every conference in the country take part in that settlement. But the reason that we're here to talk about it, the reason it is very significant, is that as part of this settlement, the conferences, the schools will now be able to directly compensate. And I'm talking about payment for playing, pay for play. You won't have to hide it anymore with athletes in any sport that you want. For Duke and the other power conferences, there will be a salary cap, so to speak, of $20.5 million. And it's going to fluctuate, their numbers that, depending on contracts and things that cause it to go up and, up a little bit, but right around $20.5 million. And Duke will have to decide the same way Georgia and Ohio State and North Carolina and everyone else, all the other power conference teams have to decide how to allocate that $20.5 million because, you put some of it to football, some of it to basketball. Do you have anything left over for softball or baseball, for soccer, for track, and on and on and on? But then the other part of this is it does not bring an end to NIL payments to athletes. But what's going to happen is anytime someone wants to make a payment to an athlete, whether it be a collective, whether it be a business, whether it be an individual, that payment needs to go through a special clearinghouse that has been set up where they will vet it and make sure that it is for legitimate endorsement, appearance kind of activities, that it's not just pay for play. It must be what they're calling market rate for whatever it is that you have done. The theory that the schools have is that this will end rich boosters and donors paying guys millions of dollars just to play a sport. Donald, do you think that's going to happen?
No, and honestly, Jason, I don't think that's what it's going to do, right? I think the idea is that, again, a lot of this will be more above board, but I think it was CBS had an article about this, and they were quoting someone as saying that if there was a clearinghouse for the contracts that they do know of, or the NIL deals that they do know of, that 90% of them would be approved as is. So we're not talking about a vast majority here that is going to change, right? There's going to be, yes, there's still some of those that, Joe Schmo from random place all of a sudden gets $3 million. Those might be a question. But I think the clearinghouse is going to allow for that to continue. But also, Jason, I think we're not yet done. Lawyer hat on here. There is going to be some lawsuits out of this, and not necessarily bad lawsuits, right? Because the lawsuits that I'm thinking about are going to be how to make that $20.5 million that fluctuates based on average revenue per school. That particular pie, as you mentioned, goes to all sports, right? So not just football, not just basketball. There's going to be, swimming and diving, fencing, all those non-revenue sports would have access to this fund, and schools can pay players and athletes through this fund for other sports. But there's going to be lawsuits about how to make that distribution equitable. Title IX, obviously, they're going to have to make sure that they're compliant with that. But I think there's also the fact that the NCAA still hasn't figured out how this is going to work. They're once again kind of putting this out there and saying, do this. And they haven't really set guidelines on how it'll work. And it leads to a few more questions as we go along. But I think the first part is, yes, how will schools use that particular school fund of the $20 million? How will they use that to boost NIL across their sports without making it appear that this is just earmarked for two sports, football and men's basketball?
Well, I'll tell you, there are some schools, if you're like in the Big East, most of the teams in the Big East don't have football teams. Now, they're not going to allocate $20.5 million. They don't have Big East schools, because they don't have football, don't have nearly as much conference revenue. The Big East conference revenue is like in the $6 or $7 million range, whereas Duke's going to get like $40+ million from the ACC this year. But if you're a Big East school, suddenly you can allocate almost your entire NIL, pie to basketball. There are a lot of people out there who think that the Villanovas, the UConns, although UConn has a football team, it's not super competitive. But the schools like that are going to be able to allocate a little bit more from their school pie than a school like Duke and even Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, schools where they are really focused on basketball, maybe even more than football. That even those schools may have trouble keeping up with the schools that don't have any football at all. It's we don't know. It is we have seen nothing but inflection points. Things changing and uncertainty about team structure and payments and all that other kind of stuff for the past few years. And I know there are a lot of people who want to be like, oh, the house settlement is here. Now suddenly we're going to get some structure to it and some understanding and some transparency. I don't know. I don't know that any of that's going to happen. I think it's still going to be the wild, wild west, and we're going to have no idea what's going on for the most part.
I think another couple of things to note, right? The first part is athletes who receive money through the school fund are not going to be considered employees yet. The NCAA has made that determination that they won't be considered employees. So again, there will be more legal battles with regards to that. We've talked about some of those in the past, but I also think what what schools like Duke can do, or Texas, for example. Texas, if you remember, Quinn Ewers, their quarterback,
Yeah.
all of his NIL money came from endorsements, not from a collective. He didn't just get a collective check, right? He just got all endorsements, and that's how they were able to build up his like $2.5-3 million package that he got.
Arch Manning's going to be the same way this year. Yeah.
No, but the point of that is that teams don't have to dip into this fund. They can be creative with it. So Duke with the Rachel Baker can, let's take Cooper Flag, for example, because he's no longer here. Like Cooper Flag can say, hey, instead of getting 10 million from this collective, why don't we give you $10 million from Gatorade and 5 million from New Balance and 2 million from McDonald's? We do that. You've made more money, and we haven't dipped into our fund yet. So now we can use that fund for other athletes that, hey, we maybe aren't able to get it on the endorsement side of things. And I think when you look at some of these schools, Boston College, for example, Boston College may use it on football, but you know where they might use it on? Hockey, where they have a established program that really wants to, LSU, Texas, they may use it not just on football, they may use it on track, or they may use it on baseball to try and boost some of those other teams that they really enjoy and that may be the second biggest sport at that particular school. So you will see some non-revenue athletes. LSU with gymnastics, right? They're going to have an issue with the gymnastics. UCLA, Stanford with their swimming program and all their other Olympic sports. There's going to be some of these things that they're going to have to figure out. But at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily change things. It just adds an element to keeping it above board. And I think this clearinghouse is going to get a lot of work in the first couple of years because there's going to be some contracts moving in. And this is where the NCAA could have set some guidelines, but now it's going to be a case by case basis of, is this contract cool? Is this endorsement deal okay? Is this, meeting guys for and taking pictures? Is that above board? There's going to be some gray areas here that they need to draw on the lines. But I think this is a good step to, again, establishing a little bit more clarity in the NIL world, but we're not fully there yet.
No, we're certainly not. And I am looking forward to the next few months and beginning to get a sense of, what's working and what isn't in the house settlement, because I think there are going to be some contracts. There are going to be some things that they're going to go, no, this does not fly. And it's going to be interesting to hear about those and see how teams adjust and how players and how the people who are willing to fork over big money, how all of them adjust to it. And I still think, I don't know that you're going to see, I think I've seen some people project that, you're going to see the runaway money we saw this past off season, where guys are in college basketball routinely getting $2 and $3 million deals. They're like, oh, that's going to start to go away. I'm not so sure. I really I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know that it's going to continue to escalate the way it has. I mean, a couple of years ago, $1 million, you were like, there's no way that anybody's getting that. And now $1 million, you're like, oh, is that for a backup?
Well, just think about it, Jason. We just talked the other day, right? You mentioned UNC has a reported $14 million coffer, right? This if they got that all from this $20 million fund, at least $6 million for everybody else in the UNC
No way,
athletic
baby.
program. It's not going to happen. So there's going to be some of this.
Football's taking 15 million of that. I'm telling you, of that 20 million. Yeah.
Right.
So. All right. So, Donald, the last thing we're going to do here connects very much to what we were just talking about. We have been asking all of you, if you didn't listen to the last podcast, here's the URL, people, tinyurl.com/Duke Roundup. We asked all of you to go fill out a survey, a bunch of questions about Duke basketball, about your fandom, your favorite players, your favorite teams, your opinions about NIL, about one and done, and all that kind of stuff. And at the very end of that survey, we gave you all a chance. Write anything you want. And a lot of people, by the way, Donald, have written, we love the podcast. Folks, we love all of you as well. That is awesome. But some people have taken that space at the end to write in some really interesting comments, including some about the current state of NIL and the college game. By the way, I'm just going to go ahead and tell everybody right now, the survey is still open. There is still time for you to fill it out. We're not going to unveil all the results yet. We're going to be bringing those out dribble drab over the next few weeks. We have gotten over 1,100 responses so far. This is legitimately a huge poll at this point. So we want all of you to participate. Again, tinyurl.com/Duke Roundup. But Donald, you have gone through a bunch of the answers, a bunch of that blank space. And what have you heard, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, some great responses across the board. Some very interesting answers. Some answers that I was like, oh, if I had a chance to respond to this person, I would say this. So I did, Jason, go through and pick a couple of them that I thought were noteworthy. And I think they tied it into our house discussion about NIL in general, because that was the brunt of that last question. A lot of our responses were in that area because that was the one, I guess that was the one question that we didn't really give a chance for people to elaborate. So they used that as their opportunity too. So there's a couple of them that I pulled that I wanted to respond to. The first one, just in general, right? I think people, when they hear the words NIL, they think of it in a negative term to begin with. And I think this also plays into something that you and I talk about when we talk about some of these things. Like, people always respond to the negative, right? They respond with, I wish we would just go back to it being college again. And I'll tell you, in college, I made money and I had a partial scholarship. I was not an athlete, but some of the athletes that were on the same line as me couldn't get jobs. They couldn't get extra money to buy food or get groceries for their apartment or buy gifts for their family for Christmas. But I think now people are starting to really understand maybe some of the other sides of it. I think the best answer that I've seen so far is, and again, we're not going to say names because we don't know any names, but this answer, Jason, they said, I think NIL has been good for Duke. I believe it has made Duke football relevant again. That's a positive, right? Like, because of the fact that we are starting to put more investment into the football team, look where it has gotten us. A team that a lot of people think can compete, not just in the ACC, but nationally as we move forward. That is not something we were talking about 6-7 years ago, right? So that's something that can be viewed as a positive. I also think that there are people who say, there was one that said, I have no problem with players making as much as they can. The schools, conferences, and NCAA make billions off their labor, so they should be compensated. That said, the current system is nuts. I believe you guys mentioned this in one of your episodes regarding transfer portal. If a school recruits a player away from another school via their transfer portal, I'm in favor of some kind of compensation for the school, like in professional soccer. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, if you talk about NIL in regards to professional soccer, I will probably read it and I will like it. But I think, Jason, that's a good point. We don't have that system. People are left high and dry in the sense that and I'm not talking about the Dukes of the world and the Kansas of the world, the people who transfer in. I'm talking about the Murray States.
Yeah.
And the Southwest Missouri states and the Eastern Washingtons who have their whole teams almost plucked away if they even make it so much as the second round of the NCAA tournament. All those guys end up on different other teams without any compensation to them. They put the investment in them, they gave them some NIL money, and at the end, these people left for another. And that's fine for the players, but in the case of the school, it could be something where you work out a transfer deal. Hey, Jason, I'm going to go get this guy from Kansas. Kansas, I'm going to give you $200,000 for your 10th man. Or let's say Jack Scott, right? In the case of Princeton. Princeton, I'm going to give you 200 grand for us signing your guy away from him, from you. Maybe that's something that the NCAA works out. That's just a soccer mind thinking that. But I digress. I think the last one, Jason, brings up a point that I've had in my mind for a while, and I want to share it. So this comment says, I love college basketball, but is it college anymore? I doubt at some schools players don't even go to class. There seems to be no concern now about scholastics. Do schools even care? Not sure there are student athletes. This is not what college sports is supposed to be. Earning an athletic scholarship used to be a big deal. Why did Cooper Flagg need a scholarship? Because he could certainly pay the tuition himself. And Jason, I see in your eyes you want to respond to this, but let me do this real quick. I think in the case of this is college. This has always been college. And guess what didn't change with NIL? College. College kids were professionals and go into class. Duke has had so many people who are not athletes, who are artists, musicians, actresses, actors that have made money while they're in school.
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, who have made money while
they're in college all the time, and sometimes really successful,
or made money and then came to school.
Yep.
Right? What's the difference between Mike Posner, who was a musician and making millions of dollars selling records while he was in school, and Carlos Boozer, who made millions of dollars in the NBA and then returned to school to get his degree? Nothing. They're the same. And I think people need to understand that college athletes now are able to do what college students have always been able to do. And when you talk about the term student athlete, they still are. These guys are in class. These guys are getting work done. They're not doing bird courses. This is Duke. There is no such thing as a bird course. All of these courses are difficult. And they have access to world-renowned tutors that can help them out because of their strict schedule. But they go to class. They care about scholastics. They get degrees, or they get progression towards degrees. And as we've mentioned, some of these guys, when they're done with their careers, or even while they're still playing, come back to Duke. They take classes. It's just not in the papers. It's not on ESPN. So you don't hear about it until maybe they graduated and Duke says something. But these guys are doing what you and I, Jason, did when we were in school, what so many others have done at Duke. They are living the Duke experience. And their experience is a little bit different than ours because they also have to put on a uniform and go out there in front of 9,314 people and millions on television and play a basketball game or play a football game. I think people need to really rethink their qualms about NIL, because it's not the scholastics part. It's not the student athlete part. These people, these athletes are still students at the end of the day, and they're just as much a college student as you or I were when we were on campus. I was able to get a job and work my way through school. I was able to also have a scholarship at the same time. These guys can do the same now. And oh, yes, they're a little bit better at their job than I was. So they get a little bit more money as a result. And so I think as we move forward, I love the responses to these, but I hope people kind of reframe their mind as to what a college athlete is. It is not the amateurism, because that wasn't college. That was the NCAA. And I think that's a distinct, difference in how we approach it, because these guys are putting their butts on the line for us to enjoy. And because of that, they're getting a little bit more money on the side.
To the question of whether or not they are still student athletes, whether they are still students, I can only tell you what I observe at Duke, because I'm not privy to what happens at other schools. I have no doubt that there are plenty of schools where, especially the, elite one and done talent is really not bothering with classes very much at all, because it's been that way for a long, long time. I'm just going to tell you from my personal experience when I was at Duke, my personal experience when I've gone back and visited Duke and spoken to people, my conversations with former Duke players, and from a year ago, a little more than a year ago, when I went and I was a guest speaker, Professor Aaron Dinnan at Duke, who's a wonderful entrepreneurship professor, had me come talk to his class about social media, about my time at CNN, and all kinds of stuff that I've experienced in my life. And his class is full of athletes, and they were there. They were present. They were active. They were engaged. They were listening to me. I don't know that I told them anything all that valuable, but they were in that class. And, times when I go and visit Duke, I'm wandering around and students get out of classes, and I'll see basketball, football players coming out of classes, guys who I know have NBA futures. I see them walking around campus carrying their books. It is not, even though they are getting paid, and at this point, many of them getting paid millions of dollars. And even though they know they're only going to be there for a short period of time, these guys are still going to class. They're putting in some work. They know that it matters to get an education. And look, I can't speak to any place other than Duke, but they're still student athletes. I firmly believe that.
And we have this thing called the APR. It matters to Duke. It matters to the brotherhood that comes after them, right? So the fact that when Duke makes a big deal about putting out that Constantinople, Cooper Flag, and Kamamala, which are all, all academic, freshmen for their time, that's a big deal because they are making sure that their performance doesn't hinder that of a teammate that they may not have met yet. A teammate that will become a member of the brotherhood later on. You don't want them walking in and saying, oh, Duke is in danger of missing the NCAA tournament because those guys 3 years ago didn't go to class. That's where the school kind of steps in. And yes, when I had my job and when I left, it was no effect on future Dukies. They're more smarter than me now. So you're welcome. But I think a lot of people, again, think that the scholastic part is missing, and they use that to kind of denigrate one and dones and say that they're not beloved. Well, Lowell Deng is still doing stuff for Duke. Kyrie Irving is still doing things for Duke. Jabari Park, K Academy is full of one and dones that come back. They're full of guys who have transferred out of Duke and come back. This is beyond, like, the way that they have structured this is bigger than themselves. And when they walk into Duke, they know that, just like you or I. When we go, Duke is everywhere. Duke is behind me, Jason. Duke is right here, and Duke is right here in the heart. So these guys and these women athletes, when they come to Duke, they know that they're a part of something special, and they are going to continue to pay that forward by doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that includes getting their education.
Could not have said it better myself. All right, with that, we're wrapping up the latest edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup, the DBR podcast. He is Donald. I am Jason. And this is the survey, tinyurl.com/Duke Roundup. More than 1,100 people have already taken it. Why haven't you? With that, here's the Duke band playing us out and taking us home.